What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video, and I have another Lions update for you guys post-draft. These are undrafted free agents that the Detroit Lions have signed so far. Let's get it started. So Bob Quinn, before during draft time when he was asked all these interviews and stuff, he was asked about undrafted free agency. He was asked what would it be like. Are you going to bring in the same amount of players? Will you bring in less players because of everything that's going on? He talked about he'd only probably bring in a handful of players because everything that is going on is harder to evaluate these players when they can really make a name for themselves in spring. We know the training camp could be more virtual, so it's really hard to bring in a lot of players. But the Detroit Lions, finished their draft. I think their draft was absolutely incredible. Let me just say that first off, my favorite draft by Bob Quinn ever, and I'm not just saying that because, I say that every year. This was literally a beautiful draft. Oh my gosh, I loved it. But the Lions still had a couple of, depth positions that they could add some comp at, and they did so far in undrafted free agency. As they continue to update, I will keep you guys updated. But again, it may not be on the minute because, I'm not always, sitting here, so that's not what I do all day. But, hey, anyways, we're going to talk about some of the free agents Detroit Lions have brought in so far, undrafted free agents, that is. Let's start it off with the tight end, Hunter Bryant. Now, Hunter Bryant is a tight end out of Washington who is known as one of the top tight ends in this draft by many people. But he fell. He just continued to fall and fall and fall. And I was like, what is going on? Why is Hunter Bryant falling? I didn't think we'd draft a tight end because it wasn't really needed. T.J. Hockenson, Jesse James, Isaac Nauta. Why draft a tight end? Well, Hunter Bryant fell completely off the board to undrafted free agency as one of the top tight ends in the draft, which a lot of people are looking at this as a steal because he had 52 receptions, 825 yards. Because of injury concerns, he fell off. What? This guy fell off the complete draft board. No way. And we signed him. Now, this is a great move in the Lions. He's going to compete with Isaac Nauta, at least give him competition at the very least. Maybe he doesn't make the team, but he competes and makes Isaac Nauta better. Another late-round pick from last season. So this was an absolute amazing move. I don't know how this guy fell off. I understand injury concerns are a lot of things, but to not get drafted at all is crazy. Lions didn't need a tight end, but to get one undrafted free agency and not use a pick on it is perfect. This was probably the best when you talk about overall player, like maybe a guy that you actually know. You may not know any of these other guys I talk about, but this may be the player that you might actually know about. Yes, a tight end. So I liked it. I mean, Hunter Bryant, from what I could tell, I don't know tons about tight ends, so I'm not going to act like I'm a genius about tight ends, but I do know that Hunter Bryant was listed as one of the top tight ends in this draft by a lot of people. I think he was in my top 10 for sure. So, yeah, we brought in a tight end to compete. I love it. Next up, we brought a fullback in. His name is Luke Sellers out of South Dakota State. You guys know South Dakota State is where Zach Zenner went. Now, he only had 4 carries in college, but this is a fullback that, again, can compete for that position. Now, we know Darrell Bevell's offense utilizes fullbacks a lot, and the Lions have went all in to help the run game, getting 2 guards that can help. Logan Stenberg, a great run blocker, Jonah Jackson trading up to get that other guard. They brought in Big V. They are on top of being able to run. They brought in 2 running backs, I still can't get over that DeAndre Swift is lying. Can I? I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm just in shock. But anyways, we brought in now a fullback that can help out with Darrell Bevell's offense in Luke Sellers out of South Dakota State. Next up, we brought in a long snapper, Stephen Wirtel. Is it Stephen Wirtel out of Iowa State? Now, yeah, we didn't draft one. Thank goodness. Okay, Bob Quinn knows what it's like to draft a long snapper, and he doesn't make the team. That's not good. Just wait until I draft the free agency and bring one in, and that's exactly what he did here with Stephen Wirtel out of Iowa State. He will compete with Don Muhlbach, may not win the position. Maybe he gets a future contract, something. We know Don Muhlbach has been here for like 2 decades. He signed like another 1-year extension, and he's an absolute legend. But at some point, you can't even imagine, but at some point we're going to need a replacement. So to have a guy in there that compete and potentially something does happen, Stephen Wirtel is the guy that we can go back to and potentially bring up to play that long snapper position. So I thought that was pretty solid. Thank goodness he didn't draft one. Next up, Aaron Sipos. I think it's Aaron Sipos how you say his name. This is a punter out of Auburn. We know the Lions needed to add some competition with Matt Weil, but they didn't do that through the draft. Brandon Mann actually went pretty early. So they said, you know what, forget that. We're not going to use a draft pick on it. Instead, we're going to sign one in undrafted free agency. Again, something that I completely agree with. Thank you, Lions. They brought in a punter who's going to compete with Matt Weil. We know Sam Martin signed with the Broncos. You had to have someone to compete. I think it was the Broncos. You have to have someone that can compete for that punter position. We do have Matt Weil, but to give him competition is always better. It's always better. So we brought in a punter. Next up, we brought in a safety named Jalen Elliott. And that name may sound familiar to a few people. He was a Notre Dame safety that had 2 interceptions. He was actually the team captain for Notre Dame. And again, some depth here at safety. I thought maybe the Lions would go this route in the draft. They didn't. And because of that, they decided to address that in undrafted free agency. And I like it. Add some depth here. I don't know what the roles look like at depth because I know we have Will Harris, Tracy Walker, Deron Harmon. Those guys will be starters, right? But what about after that? Jaron Kearse, I feel like he's more of a special teams guy like he was in Minnesota. Miles Killebrew. There's a lot of question marks. But I do know that the Lions brought in Jalen Elliott to compete. He's young, obviously, because he's an undrafted free agent. And he'll compete for some depth spots. And then finally, we have Austin Edwards out of Ferris State, who had 10.5 sacks last season and was Division II's defensive lineman of the year. So, boom. I mean, the Lions, making some moves. I will keep you guys updated as they come in, but so far, those are the players Detroit Lions have brought in. You may not know really any of them, but if you don't, that's okay. You can definitely go check them out if you want to. I just want to keep you guys updated with a few moves the Lions have made. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Man, this draft is awesome. Actually, I just got done watching Quintez Cephas, and I was like, whoa, this dude got hands. Thank you, Brad, for watching, and I'm out.